no secret my love of math and logic. And I have an example of where I think that comes in on a very practical level. So I have this concept I've been saying, which is first you fail. The idea being that if you want to get better at something, the first step is you fail at it, right? That's hence the wanting to get better. You're not good enough. You're not good enough to succeed. Therefore, you need to get better. Therefore, when you first try, you will fail. And as I explain that, that kind of gets to the point about why I love math and logic so much. And I use math kind of loosely, figuratively, but it's that mathematical type logic where it's somewhat indisputable. You follow the thread and, if P, then Q, and if Q, then Z, or whatever, right? And I think that holds here. And it's the reason I take such comfort in that is that our minds, as I talk about, are so hard to trust, right? They want to lead us in so many different directions. They want to keep us safe. They want to make us comfortable. But in doing that, they're really good at spinning narratives and convincing us of things. And it becomes, there's a lack of clarity. It's very hard to decipher what's real and what's not, what's really best for me, what's really the truth here. And that mathematical logic helps to cut through a lot of that. When you follow that logic, it's easier to gain clarity. It's easier to ground yourself and say, okay, I know why I'm taking this action. I know why I'm feeling this pain. I know if it's functional, at least as best you can. So an example of that. I love Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, but I hate competing in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu tournaments. Why do I hate competing in those tournaments? Because it makes me uncomfortable. Simple terms, right? Why does it make me uncomfortable? Because it exposes me. I want to believe a truth that I'm really good at Jiu Jitsu, that I have some certain degree of toughness and masculinity. I can protect myself and my family if something were to happen and I needed to, get into an altercation with someone. I want the people that I train with and my coaches to think that I'm talented and good and somebody that's like, oh, that's a jiu-jitsu guy. I want all those things. And when I compete, I put those things at risk. I become vulnerable. Because if I get beat and I get beat bad, right, and maybe I look like I have no skill or I just mentally break, which for me is usually the biggest thing, well, then none of those things are true. And I don't want to face that, right? I don't want to put myself in that position. So for a long time, I didn't compete. And I try and avoid competing because it makes me so uncomfortable. But you start to think about this mathematical logic. And you say, well, you have to compete, right? It doesn't make any sense. If you want to be good at those things, if you want to be those things, you have to get better at this, right? You have to actually earn it and achieve it. You can't just make pretend you are. So I competed in a jiu-jitsu tournament this past weekend. And I wouldn't say worst case scenario happened, but I did get that kind of mental break, right? Where I go out there and almost instantly I feel exhausted. My arms feel weak. I'm breathing heavily. Nothing that I ever experienced in training, but it's that mental breakdown. It's that fear that takes over and it shuts me down and I can't perform at the level I want to perform at. So shit, this is exactly what I didn't want to have happen. And it happened in front of everybody at my school and coaches and all that stuff. And my first reaction when I walked away from that was like, man, this feels like shit. Either I'm never going to compete again, or maybe I won't even do jiu-jitsu again because I hate this feeling. And what's the point? And this is what I was getting at before, right? Your mind starts going all sorts of different places to try and protect you and make you feel comfortable again. Jiu-jitsu's the problem. That tournament's the problem. Competing doesn't even make sense. That's not really proof of anything. Oh, there's some other reason. I didn't have enough time to warm up. It'll go everywhere. But the reality is, first you fail. Right? I want to get better at competing in these tournaments. I need to get better, right? So when I go to do that, when I go to practice, when I go to get the reps and go into a tournament, first I'm going to fail because that's why I need to get better. It's mathematically logical. If I was already better, then I wouldn't fail, but then I wouldn't need to worry about it. So once I kind of started to ground myself in that logic and that understanding, it made sense to me. And it allowed me to move past it to another step, which I haven't been able to do before, which is, okay, what do I do about it? Logically, I need to keep competing. I need to figure this out. I need more inputs. I need more data points. As uncomfortable as that would be, and normally that would be the last thing I'd want to do, it becomes abundantly clear to me, oh, that's what I need to do now. Now, I'm not trying to say this is easy. Once you make that realization and you follow the logic, everything's great. It still takes a high degree of mental toughness and courage and all those things to actually then go out and compete. And I'm still nervous about it. But I at least feel like I'm heading down the right path. And I think I have logic to thank for that path. And in this case, it's that mathematical understanding of first you fail, then you get better.